Hi there, everyone. I am Monica from Fullview Solutions, Batux 24 Gold Partner in South Africa, and welcome to this webinar about where did my leads go. I did quite a bit of research for me to share this information with you about not all leads are created equal. And I found very interesting information from MIT. Apologies, and from InsideSales.com, that not all leads are created equal, and your response time targets should reflect that. And I found very interesting statistics, which is also a bit of an eye-opener in terms of facts or research that they did. That companies that respond to a lead within 1 hour are 7 times more likely to qualify than those who respond later. That's the first one. If you respond within 5 minutes, you are 21 more times more likely to qualify the lead than if you wait for 30 minutes. And that 78% of customers buy from the first company that responds. So that was very interesting for me to read this, and it can kind of be summarized in a way like this. So this will be recorded. This is recorded, so you can review this afterwards. So that's the under 5 minute stats. The 5 to 10 minutes is 10 times less, 10 to 30, 20 times after 1 hour, and then 24 hours you are fighting for scripts. So this is the stats, but then I had a look at why this happens. And there's two main reasons that I found in terms of why, if you don't respond now, it's not a good result. And it's your lead is actively thinking about their problem. Now, I want a solution now. We are in an instant world where everything needs to happen instantly. And they are in a research mode. So it's not necessarily the best company or the cheapest company that they can go for, but the first one that responds. Because when you wait, we are not just delaying the conversation, and I say we because it applies to myself as well. I'm letting the competitor have that lead instead. And that is where lead assignment strategies and those items become important. But that's talking about in theory. So let's get practical and let's put us in the shoes of the customer. You've got a lead from your website, and you need to follow up in terms of these rules where speed actually wins. If we see ourselves on the other side, we can look at Mike as an example. Mike needs a new carport for his house. He dives into Google, he finds a few websites, and he logs inquiries. He finds company 1, logs an inquiry, company 2, company 3, hypothetically speaking. The immediate response he gets is company 1 sends him an auto response saying, thank you for your inquiry. Company 2, nothing happens. Company 3, nothing happens. That's what happens immediately. If we turn the clock a little bit, we can see maybe 10 minutes later, he gets a follow-up email from company 1 that wants to book a site visit with him so they can measure and see what he requires. Company 2, nothing yet. Company 3, nothing yet. 1 hour later, Mike gets a confirmation phone call, say that your site visit is booked. We'll see you there to measure and get your carport going. Company 2, nothing yet. Company 3, they actually give him a call to get a bit more information about what he needs. You get the picture. So you've all been on that side of the phone call or the email. So in this case, company two might have the best price and the best service and the most experience, but Mike already has a picture in his mind of who's the best company in terms of who responded first. So I need to share an actual, practical example where I made a mistake. We partnered with a company called Vibrant, which they do equipment rentals, or like if you have catering equipment or gardening equipment, you can use that software to book and manage that. And he gave us leads to follow up as his new South African partner. And 2 days later, when he asked me for feedback, and I do admit this, Siva, I apologize, I haven't followed up yet. And then I realized why. It was just an email. I didn't create a lead in my system to be able to follow up. So I missed it. And when I contacted this customer, they already went for another solution. So I missed the opportunity. So why does this actually happen? Over and above the fact that the customer has a specific mindset. And I had to look at this for myself to practice as well. Because it's not that your product is bad or that sales is not important, is because somewhere our chain is broken. Because I didn't log my lead, I didn't get a reminder to follow up. And I found 5 breakpoints where we lose this. So I want us to run through this, and then we can look at practical ways that we actually can solve that by using Patrix. So we don't just use a system we don't know why. We need to solve some pain points. And the first breakpoint I found was capturing. That's what I did wrong. I didn't capture my lead and create it in the system. And what makes it challenging is we've got so many communication channels that we receive inquiries from. I receive an email, I receive a WhatsApp, I get somebody completes a website form, I get a phone call, and then I can easily miss that. So we need to make sure it gets connected or logged in a central place. The next one is assignment. So if it just falls into this black hole, so yes, I've got those channels connected to my system, whatever it is, Patrix or another CRM, and it's not assigned to a specific person, then I think Phil's going to call the customer, Phil thinks I'm going to call the customer, and then at the end, nobody calls them. So we need to know who is responsible for the specific sales inquiry. If it's only you, if you are the solo entrepreneur, that's fine. You're the one that has to do it. But we need to say who is assigned to this. The third one is response time. That's the example we looked at with Mike for getting his carport. We receive a lot of inquiries. Well, I do, emails and everything. And I need to be able to prioritize in terms of what do I have to do. So if that inquiry comes in and I tried to contact the customer now, and maybe they didn't answer the phone or they didn't respond on the email, I need a reminder to follow up. Because a lot of times the sale doesn't happen on the first call. If I remember correctly, Philip saw some stats. I think sometimes it takes up to 10 actions for you to reach out to the customer for the sale to actually happen. So those constant reminders for you and also using your system to do that for you is very valuable. So those are the follow-ups, and then I've got visibility. Once again, if it is in a central system, whoever's managing the sales team has a view of what's happening. It's not just WhatsApps and emails all over in different inboxes and on different phones. And this is where it sometimes hits the hardest because management can't manage their team. So the leads don't disappear, they just drop off somewhere where the process is broken. So, how do we fix this? So without chasing the team all day and making sure they do what they have to do. And this is where we've got a tool. So we can look at it practically. How do we solve those little pain points? So this is your background, and now it's the practical lesson of how do we do this actually in Bitrix. So I've created a few leads for us as examples that we can look at, and then we can follow up and see how we go through the ticks and the processes. If I've set up this Bitrix for a cleaning company, maybe, then I can look at Sarah's inquiry as an example. This, for instance, came from a phone call. It could have been from a website or an email or wherever. The most important part is that it is in my Bitrix. From here, I can now see if I can solve those pain points. So, is it addressed immediately? For that, how you can use Bitrix is if it is connected, you can use your automation rules to help you with that. And this is some examples of automations that I've built, and I'll show you how to build it that you can use it in your own business. I always use renaming the lead just for me internally, so I don't see lead hashtag 1267. When I have that overview of my sales, I can see who it is, specifically who it is for. Then what I've added is an acknowledgement email, because a lot of times we submit a form or send an email somewhere, and I don't know, did they actually receive it or did it just go into a black hole? In Bitrix, you can now do this and say, I'm going to set up an email to be sent out automatically to acknowledge that we have received the inquiry. So you can see over there, I've added a sender, I've added a subject, and then over here is where we can personalize it. If you look at that item where it says name, I fetch information from the lead to send it to this customer about his specific inquiry. And how you do that is you use these three dots on the right, where I can, I must want to say, map information that I want to autocomplete this to make it personal. So you would just make sure that you are in the right module. In terms of I'm in leads, I can pick that, and then you can see I've got lots of information that I can use to auto-populate and personalize this specific email. There's an example for us in terms of name. There's an example of the cleaning service type. So when we go back to the lead now, we can look at the fields that's been captured and use that to make our communication more relevant or targeted, not just very general. So this is what happens immediately. We can, at the next automations, we'll look at how can I delay this for a specific period so that everything doesn't happen all at once. Let's just focus on this that says the cleaning service type when we look at this automatic acknowledgement. So if I close this automation and I close that, I can open up Sarah's inquiry. And then there's a field that this cleaning service has to know what service is this customer interested in. So if it is blank, then you can just send a general email. But the ideal would be that when they log an inquiry, they pick the type of service that they want. Deep cleaning service. So that is the service that they are interested in. Now we go back to my automation. I've picked deep cleaning here. If I go to my automation and we look at what's been set up, I can send this email and then it will say, thank you for your interest in our deep cleaning service. So you don't have to do every email manually to send that response. So that's my customer acknowledgement email. Then there's another important thing is I need to know, I need to let this responsible person know that they've got a lead. But I don't want to just send it to the whole team because then it's that thing of, I think you're doing it, you think I'm doing it. For this, we can use rules to assign a responsible person. So what I've done over here is I've said if the cleaning type is deep cleaning, always assign it to the deep cleaning department. And you can build multiple of this to say, if it is this, then assign it to that specific person. Let me show you how you do that. So if I click on this, where it says condition, you will see I have cleaning service type is equals to deep clean. It's if statements or just if rules. If you can think about a rule like that, then it means you can use this. And then I'm going to say I'm assigning it to the deep cleaning department. It's preferable that you assign it to a department and not a person because people move around. If somebody moves to a new department or they leave and you have a new employee in that position, then you have to update all your automations. So when you assign a responsible person, try and make it for a specific department. If you have a group of people in the deep cleaning department, you can also use this to say, pick a random person and assign it to them. Do it for the first available person, especially if it is something like assigning a chat or in a specific order. You can have the team listed individually and say it always has to happen in this specific order. So that's one of our breaks in terms of who is doing it. So then we're assigning the responsible person. Then I also need to know, it's no use I'm assigning this to the deep cleaning department and they don't know. If they don't know, they won't be able to follow up within my 5 minutes golden period. So how do we do that? Once again, I can use one of my automation rules and say I am going to notify this specific responsible person that I've set in the previous step and tell them you have a new lead assigned to you that you need to follow up. You can either send it to them as a Bitrix message or you can send it to them as an email. I prefer a Bitrix message. If you do email, just make sure there's a link that takes them to that specific lead so they don't have to go open up Bitrix and find it. So that's notifying them. If you look at the top here of all these automation icons, you will see there's an immediate, after previous by condition. And then in this one, you'll see 10 minutes after the previous action. So what does this mean? All you are telling Bitrix is that wait 10 minutes before you do this automation. So it gives me a chance to contact the customer and move the lead to the next stage that says I have contacted the customer. Else, like I said, I might try and then it didn't work or I just didn't see it. So it will remind me again. Let's look at how you set that up. If I go to edit, you will see on top here it says wait. So I need to wait for all the previous automations to complete, and then you add a time limit. So in this case, I said 10 minutes, remind me within 10 minutes. If you look at this block behind the automation, you can see I've set it to 2 hours for any of the different stages. You need to speak to your team, or you as management decide what is fair or what is practical to send reminders. Because if you send too many, I can promise you they're just going to ignore it. So now I can say 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 day, 2 hours, however long I want to wait to send this reminder. So that's waiting a bit. And all of this is only going to happen while the lead is in this stage. So those are basic automations that you can use. You don't have to do code and complex development setup. And how do you get to that? So I've shown you what you can do, but how do you get to that? You can use this plus icon below any of your stages. If I do this, first contact completed, I can click add, and then you have a search here to help you to do whatever you want to do. So at the moment it shows emails because that's the last thing I did. So if I type email, it will show me all the options I have available for emails. If I type the word task, it will show me I can create a task and all the other options you have available for tasks. So that's the simplest way. I like to use that. Else, if you know where everything is, you can also use these menu items on the left. Last important tip when it comes to automations. Can you see that I've renamed this block? If you add something by default, if I do this, and I just add random information, and I click save, you will see it just says send email. If I need to go back later and review what is my process, how am I equipping my team to not lose leads because of follow-up, this makes it a bit difficult. So if I click on this pencil, I can change it to tell me what the block is doing. That's very, very important. And then, so what I've added over here as well, as you can see, there's different time periods. So I'm reminding the customer. I don't only have to remind my team. So I can send the customer a quote. I'm waiting for 1 day and I haven't had any feedback. Then I can add an automation to say, remind the customer. So what I used the automation to say, send email to customer. You need to make sure that there's two. There's one that sends it to the employee and there's one sending it to the customer. Then you can use this to say, we'll get busy. Did you receive our quote? Do you still want to go ahead with the process? So that's the reminders for the customer. And then once again, the reminder for the employees. So that's adding those small practical automations that helps you to keep the leads from falling through the cracks or leaking out of the dam. I'm going to close this. And then we want to zoom out. So if you remember, one of the breakpoints was there's no visibility for management. If your leads are in a system, then you have this, what you see on the screen now. You can see how many leads do we have, how many is contacted. If you open your dashboard, there's a lot of reports you can use in Bitrix as well. Then you can see, why do I have so many leads in new inquiry? Nobody's contacted this customer, despite reminders or emails. Then you need to maybe find out why are they not doing it. They don't receive the notifications or for whatever reason. And this is how you can preempt or see when there is a problem. Looking at your dashboard. Very simple. You don't have to go to reports in Bitrix. This is already a report. So that's managing it. we have different sources. If you think about the first item we spoke about, that I'm getting leads from emails and from phone calls and from WhatsApp and from all these different channels, you can connect most of them to your Bittrex by using your contact center. I like to compare this to communication channels that you can plug into your Bittrex. So you can connect your emails for that email you're receiving to know that this is an inquiry I need to follow up with. If you are using VoIP, you can also rent the Bittrex telephony system to connect that and create leads automatically from those phone calls and even have the recording. You can have your website widget. If you're on a website, you have that little chat icon at the bottom. You can use that to create leads into your system. You can have a website form. I think most of the companies that I go to for inquiries, there's a form to say contact us or receive a quote or something. So whenever that form is submitted, it doesn't just become an email in your inbox, it creates an actual inquiry in your Bittrex. And then there's different options in terms of how you can connect WhatsApp. There's the default version that's part of your Bittrex that you can connect to your website. So instead of them completing that form, they can chat directly with you on WhatsApp. Or there's different subscriptions available that you can integrate your WhatsApp messages that you've got their phone number and they communicate straight from there. That's the different channels that you can plug in to look at your leads in Bittrex. So while I go back to the main screen, if there's any questions you have, please post them in the chat and then maybe we can see if other people benefit from that as well. I'm going to go back to our main screen. And this would be my leads, like we said, looking at it. So I'm going to go back to the presentation while we're waiting for some questions, and just that we can see that we've touched all those breakpoints that we spoke about. So let's look at this. Capture. Try and avoid doing it manually as far as possible. We connect those different channels to create the lead for us automatically. Assignment. Think about the automation we did to say if it is in deep cleaning, assign it to someone in deep cleaning that they know they can action that. Response time. Immediately use the system to send an immediate acknowledgement, and then maybe those reminders to follow up. And also when I've assigned it to a specific person, I need to notify them that they need to follow up on this inquiry. Link to the next one that says follow-ups, also the reminders about that, because like I said, we receive a gazillion emails and phone calls and communication. Let the system help you to remind you to follow up and to send an automatic follow-up to the customer. And then visibility, the last screen that we saw with the Kanban view, so management can see what is going on and where are you losing your leads. So that's my story for why we are losing leads, a bit of insight on why it's happening and how we can fix it. If you have any other questions or requests, you are welcome to either pop a message in the chat, or you can go to our website and log a request there, and we will gladly set up a meeting with you. That's it from me for today. Have a great day.